It began on a quiet Sunday morning in 1998, when a man walking his dog near a wooded area just outside a small Midwestern town stumbled upon something strange lying at the edge of a creek. From a distance, it looked like discarded trash, a plastic bag caught in the mud, half buried under leaves and branches. But as he got closer, the sight froze him in place. Inside the bag was the small, lifeless body of a boy. The image would haunt him for the rest of his life. The police arrived within minutes. What they found sent shockwaves through the town. The boy appeared to be no older than 10, dressed neatly in a striped t-shirt and jeans. There were no signs of a struggle nearby, no footprints, and no identification. The plastic bag was knotted tightly around his neck as if someone had wanted him to disappear, silently, without a trace. But there was something else that made investigators stop cold. In the boy's hand was a small, crumpled note written in a child's handwriting. It said, simply, "I'm sorry, Mom." Detectives couldn't make sense of it. Was this a suicide note from a child? Or had someone placed it there to send a message? The boy had no school records, no missing persons report that matched his description, and no one in the area recognized him. It was as if he had appeared out of nowhere and vanished just as quickly. The coroner determined that the boy had been dead for less than 48 hours when he was found, but the cause of death was difficult to determine. There were no major injuries, only bruising around the neck and faint signs of suffocation. The police began a massive search for leads, releasing the boy's facial reconstruction to the media and calling him the plastic bag boy. The name stuck. News stations across the country picked up the story, asking the same haunting question: who was he? In a time before social media and nationwide databases, it was difficult to share information quickly. Detectives faxed his photo to every police department in the state, hoping someone might recognize him, but nothing came back. Not one parent called. Not one relative came forward. It was like the boy never existed. Weeks turned into months. The case grew colder. The note in his hand, "I'm sorry, Mom," became the only clue investigators had to hold on to. Forensic experts analyzed the paper, hoping to find fingerprints or DNA, but the water from the creek had washed away everything. Still, that single sentence burned into everyone's mind. The words of a child who seemed to be apologizing for something no one could understand. Years later, retired detectives would admit that this case never left them. One of them, Sergeant Don Keller, said in an interview, "I've seen terrible things in my career, but that one felt personal. Like someone wanted us to feel something." He wasn't wrong. The image of that boy became a symbol of every unsolved child case in America. Innocent faces lost to time, each one carrying secrets the world never heard. There was one small detail that investigators almost missed. The bag the boy was found in wasn't an ordinary grocery bag. It was a commercial-grade plastic liner, the kind used by motels and cleaning companies. When the label was traced, it led to a motel chain 2 towns away. But when detectives questioned the manager, he claimed he'd never seen the child before. Still, one of the cleaning staff recalled something strange. A woman had checked in 2 days earlier with a young boy who matched the description. She was quiet, nervous, and paid in cash. They checked out early the next morning. The woman had signed the motel's guest book under the name Marie D, with no last name and no address. The handwriting was shaky, almost hurried, and the phone number she left turned out to be fake. Surveillance footage from the motel's parking lot showed her arriving in an old green sedan late at night, with the boy asleep in the passenger seat. The next morning, at 6:45 a.m., she was seen leaving alone. The boy was never seen again. Investigators were certain they had finally found their first real lead, but the trail grew cold almost instantly. The car was never found, and no one named Marie D matched any record in the surrounding states. 4 years, the case remained a haunting riddle. The local community built a small memorial at the site where the boy was found. People would leave flowers, toys, and handwritten letters addressed simply to the boy in the plastic bag. Some even began to refer to him by the name Eli, a name chosen by one of the officers who said it felt right, as if the boy should at least have an identity, even if it wasn't his real one. That small gesture became a tradition. Every year, on the anniversary of his discovery, townspeople gathered there to light candles and say prayers for a child they never knew. In 2006, nearly a decade after the case began, a forensic breakthrough rekindled hope. A new DNA analysis method identified partial genetic markers on the boy's clothing that didn't match his own. The results suggested a possible maternal link, meaning the DNA might belong to his mother. Investigators entered the data into national databases, hoping for a match. For months, they waited, but again, there was silence. Then, in late 2007, something extraordinary happened. A partial match appeared in another state. A woman who had been arrested for fraud in Arizona shared key markers with the unidentified boy. When questioned, she broke down in tears and admitted she once had a son but claimed he had died in an accident years earlier. Her name was not Marie D. It was Marlene Daniels. When detectives showed her a reconstruction image of the boy, she refused to look, whispering only, "That's not him. My son never left me." Yet her DNA suggested otherwise. Records showed she had once lived in the same area where the boy had been found. But when officers searched for evidence in her past addresses, there was nothing. No birth certificate, no medical records, and no trace of any child. It was as if the boy had never officially existed. Journalists began digging deeper, uncovering reports of a woman who frequently moved from state to state, often under new identities. Some neighbors recalled seeing her with a small boy. Others said she always seemed anxious, paranoid, and fearful of someone following her. Theories began to spread, that she was hiding from an abusive partner, that she was part of a witness protection program gone wrong, or even that the child was never hers to begin with. But then, one final twist emerged that deepened the mystery even further. A motel employee from the original chain, who had kept a copy of an old registration log as a keepsake, found something unusual scribbled faintly in pencil beneath the name Marie D. It was a message, erased almost completely but still faintly visible under ultraviolet light. The words were haunting, "I'm sorry, Mom." The same exact phrase found in the boy's hand. That discovery changed everything. Investigators realized the note in the boy's hand might not have been written by him at all. The handwriting from the motel registration matched the one on the paper, slanted, trembling, written by an adult trying to mimic a child's hand. The revelation sent chills through everyone who worked the case. It meant that someone had wanted to create the illusion of a child's farewell, to make the world believe he had taken his own life, or worse, to hide the truth behind a carefully crafted lie. Detectives returned to the motel where the note had first appeared, hoping to retrace what really happened during those missing hours. They learned that the woman calling herself Marie D. had rented a room near the back of the property, away from other guests. The cleaning staff recalled that when she checked out early, the room smelled faintly of bleach. Inside, the trash had been emptied, the sheets stripped, and even the bathroom mirror wiped clean. But under a black light, faint smears of blood were found on the tile floor. The DNA was too degraded to confirm, but the location matched everything: the timeline, the vehicle, and the note. It was almost certain that the boy had died in that room. The question that haunted investigators was why. If Marie D., or Marlene Daniels, was the boy's mother, what could have driven her to do something so horrific? Theories swirled. Some believed she had suffered a mental breakdown, overwhelmed by fear or poverty. Others thought she had been coerced, controlled by someone darker, someone who ordered her to get rid of the child. Then there were the more disturbing theories, that she was part of something larger, something organized and secretive. A few months after the motel revelation, detectives located a former co-worker of Marlene's from a diner she'd worked at years earlier. The woman remembered Marlene vividly. She said Marlene had once come into work shaking and pale, muttering about needing to keep him quiet because they were watching. When asked who they were, Marlene only said, "The people who gave him to me." It was the kind of phrase that seemed insane on the surface, but it made investigators wonder whether the boy had been adopted, or taken, in some unofficial, possibly illegal way. By 2008, with mounting public pressure, law enforcement released digitally enhanced images of both the woman and the boy, hoping someone would finally recognize them. Tips flooded in, but none led anywhere solid. One anonymous caller claimed the boy's name was Evan, and that he had once lived in a foster home across the state. Another caller insisted the woman wasn't his mother at all, but a caretaker who disappeared with him after a custody dispute. Every lead ended in silence. The case reached a dead end once again. The boy was buried under the name Eli, the one the town had given him, with a small headstone that read, "In memory of the boy in the plastic bag, forever loved, never known." For a while, it seemed the world had moved on. But in 2015, something happened that reignited the entire mystery. A freelance journalist investigating the story discovered a series of police photographs that had never been released to the public. In one of them, taken at the crime scene, there was a small object lying just a few inches from the boy's body, a broken keychain in the shape of a silver bird. At first, it seemed irrelevant. But when the journalist traced its origin, she found that the keychain design had been custom-made and sold only in one place, a gas station gift shop that closed in 1997, the year before the boy's body was found. The station's owner, now in his 70s, remembered selling one just like it to a woman who came in late at night with a young boy in tow. She paid in cash, said she was traveling to visit family, and left without giving her name. He remembered her eyes, tired, hollow, but gentle when she looked at the child. She didn't look like a monster, he told the journalist. She looked scared. The journalist's discovery spread like wildfire. Suddenly, the boy in the plastic bag case was back in the headlines, haunting a new generation just as it had the one before. Investigators reopened the files, re-examining every photograph, every statement, every trace of evidence. For the first time in years, there was a sense that they might finally be close to an answer. The silver bird keychain became the symbol of renewed hope. It was simple, almost innocent, a small token that somehow felt deeply personal. What did it mean? Why did she buy it? And why was it left beside him? The journalist, whose name was Claire Dawson, became obsessed. She spent months tracking down anyone who might have known Marlene Daniels, digging through old court records, phone directories, and abandoned buildings where Marlene was rumored to have stayed. Then, one night, she received an anonymous package at her doorstep. Inside was a single cassette tape and a note that read, "You're looking in the wrong place. Listen." There was no return address. When she played the tape, the sound of static filled the room, followed by a woman's trembling voice. It was unmistakable, it was Marlene. Her words were barely audible, whispered between sobs. "They said he wasn't mine. They said he didn't belong to me. But he called me Mom." The tape ended with a single phrase, spoken softly but clearly, "I didn't want to hurt him. I just wanted to take him home." Claire's heart pounded as she replayed it over and over. If the tape was real, it changed everything. Marlene wasn't a cold-blooded killer, she was a desperate woman trapped in something bigger than herself. But what that something was remained a mystery. The audio was analyzed, authenticated, and confirmed to have been recorded in the late 1990s. But no one could determine who had sent it or where it came from. Some believed it was a confession. Others thought it was a warning. But the more they uncovered, the darker the story became. The motel where Marlene stayed was rumored to be a meeting point for underground activities, and several missing child cases from nearby states shared disturbing similarities: children who vanished without records, mothers who used fake names, and all trails ending abruptly near that same region. As the years passed, the case took on a ghostly life of its own. Podcasts, documentaries, and internet forums debated every theory imaginable. Some believed Marlene was part of an illegal adoption ring. Others thought she was a victim herself, forced into an impossible situation by people who controlled her every move. There were even those who claimed the boy's true identity was covered up to protect someone powerful. None of it was ever proven. The truth seemed to slip further away the more people searched for it. In 2021, advances in forensic genealogy brought one final glimmer of hope. A lab managed to extract a full DNA profile from the boy's hair and uploaded it to a national database. Months later, there was a match, not to a parent, but to a distant cousin living hundreds of miles away. When contacted, the man said he remembered hearing whispers in his family about a woman who disappeared with a child decades ago. His grandmother, he said, once cried over an old photograph of a little boy and said, he never had a chance. When asked what the boy's name was, she had whispered one word, Nathan. And just like that, after more than 2 decades, the boy in the plastic bag finally had a name, Nathan Daniels. The discovery made headlines around the world. People gathered once again at his gravesite, leaving flowers and small silver bird keychains. Reporters asked the same question that haunted everyone. If Nathan's identity was finally known, then where was Marlene? No one ever found her. Some believe she died long ago, her body buried in some forgotten field. Others think she's still alive, living under a new name, carrying the weight of a secret too heavy to speak aloud. The case officially remains unsolved, but those who followed it for years agree on one thing: Nathan's final words, written on that small piece of paper, still echo through time. "I'm sorry, Mom." Maybe it wasn't a message of guilt, but of forgiveness. Maybe it was the only way he knew to tell her that, despite everything, he still loved her.